My presentation is on Meyer Berger, journalist. You two are familiar with the 1950s journalist? Okay. So he is a journalist from the 1950s who spearheaded human interest journalism. Okay, he wrote a lot of columns. He focused on New York. And like, what does this guy? Here we go. Okay, what does this guy and I have in common? Why am I so obsessed? It's because we both love New York. Like, love New York. Like, listen, I know I come off as a, like, you know, New Yorker reading, NPR listening, Subaru driving, farmer's market attending, commie pinko lesbo from Idaho. And you're right. But I'm from Queens. Yeah. I'm from Queens, born and raised. And I love New York. I just absolutely love New York. And I think where he and I are in common, like where our like commonality, why I resonate with so much of his stories, is we really understand is that this is a city of misfits and winners who've come together, and by hook or by crook, we will get it done. We will make it happen. We are New Yorkers. That's how we do. That's how we do. And that's what a lot of his stories resonate. In fact, he loved New York so much, his book was called A Love Affair with the City. And I feel that after COVID, I remember I had to not be here for a hot spell, and I remember coming back in, and I was like blasting, so cheesy. This is so vulnerable, guys. I didn't even plan to say this. I just have to tell you. I drove back into New York, and I was blasting that New York song, you know, New York. Oh, who sang that? Was that I thought it was J-Lo. Okay, I'm glad I asked. Okay. I had no idea. And just crying, just like, it is like, I love you, New York. Okay, all right. So here's some tales about New York. Like the great tale of the Secretary of State, William H. Seward. So Myers-Berger tells us that it was after the Civil War, and they wanted to make a statue of said Secretary of State. Thing is, couldn't quite get the funds, okay? Budget cuts everywhere. And so what they had to do is they had to get creative. And they took a statue of Lincoln that wasn't finished and attached a head. And this stands in Madison Square Park to this day. Okay, I'll move this way. All right, so you see that? Oh, you see that? And the closer you look, the more it becomes apparent. But that's so New York, right? Like, that is absolutely so New York. Like, all right, fine, that don't work. We'll just put a head on it. You know, like, venues are tough. We'll just do it in the basement in the Lower East Side. You know, like, we got it. Okay, all right. And also another great story. I would love this story. This is the great slaying mania of 1846. Okay. Then what happened is there was a snowstorm, okay? It came down in buckets, and it was just freezing afterwards. People could hardly, like, dig themselves out. And the thing is, at the time, most transit was done by carriage. And the wheels would slip. So what do? We get out our sleigh. That's right. All right. And people, but like there were sleighs being pulled out, like five-person, two-person sleighs, one-person sleighs, all the way to like 75-person sleighs. Yeah, it was wild. Everyone was jumping on. Everyone was getting into it. It's almost like when public transportation is free and fast, people take it. Yeah. And then it kept getting, I guess the days were on. It developed into a mania. And people were sleighing all day and night. That's New York, right? We know disaster strikes, we have a party. Okay, that's how we do. Okay, we get it up by hook or by crook. Also, Old Merchant's House on 19 East 4th Street. Totally, by the way, like really worth a visit. It's really cool. It's really cool. How this house, it was like built in the 1800s. And there it is right now. It still stands to this day, threatened by developers on the other side. So go visit. Lend your support. And it was built for a prominent like merchant family. It's very typical of the time of like what a merchant family would have. Now, people died in the house. You know, family members started to die, and they had one daughter. Her name was Gertrude Treadwell, and she was the last one left. And she lived there until the 30s, and she was 85 when she died. She died upstairs in her four-poster bed. And Then the family members, extended family members, came together after she died because it was such a historical house and was like, we got to save this thing. And we are going to try to save it. And by the way, one note about her is that so she was living there. At the end of her life, she became like a crazy recluse, and it was just like her and her maid. And then when people would come by, she'd like put on airs, and she put on like all of like I guess the 19th century like veils and shawls and laces and come down all grand. Dude, it was like OG Grey Gardens. So yes, right. You and I. Okay, yes. Right. So wild, right? So they try to keep it together. And then they moved a caretaker in to actually like live in the place to take care of it. And then she started noticing like things moving in the distance, and like she started like a thing would it's a shadow, and they realized it was her ghost coming, and it's still haunted to this day. Because New Yorkers, when we get a good housing situation, we don't let go, even in death. And by the way, if you go, there is, every Halloween, they deck out the place in, as a 19th century funeral. You could go, and they actually have in the 4-poster bed. It's so creepy. They actually have like a dead body, like not a dead body, but like my nephew was actually disappointed. He was like, I thought it was going to be an actual dead body. I'm like, you're fucking crazy. And they have like a wax body in the bed to show you what it was like. People actually like died in their beds. They would have funeral parlor comes from that. They had a funeral in the parlor. Right. And then they would drape all of the paintings of the people in black, and also they would drape all the mirrors in black. I think there was some superstition about that too, and they would lay out the body right there. And that is because New Yorkers, when we get an extra chance to monetize our apartment, we do that. That's very New York. All right, so I'd like to end on Strauss Mansion, also, which became St. Clair's Hospital. So Strauss Mansion was built, Macy's, there was the Mr. Macy, and then there was his business partner, okay? His business partner had a son. He built this house for his son. Construction delays, budget stuff, ends up that it ends up being donated to St. Clair's Hospital, which was based in Hell's Kitchen, but then they used this as an outpost. It was a hospital run by nuns, used to service a lot of the recent immigrants at the time, a lot of Italian and Irish immigrants. Also, Meyer Berger didn't know this, but I found this out in researching. Later, it was given up by the hospital and ended up in the hands of this guy. And this was where it happened. Yeah, this was like the place. Okay, all right, so let's go back to January 23rd, 1959. It was run by these nice nuns who were giving health care to immigrants. And in comes a gentleman who had he was on the Bowery, where a lot of unhoused people would be hanging out. And so they found him there, and he was blind from cataracts. And so they brought him in, cleaned him up, and were planning on his surgery to help him out. And they were like, how did you get here? What's your life been like, sir? And he said he was a violinist. Did we say violinist or is it violinist? No. Is it violinist? Okay, cultured people here. Okay, thank you. Thank you. A violinist. I'm just so grateful to be able to ask that question without feeling an idiot. You guys are awesome. I love you. All right, so violinist, and what happened is that he started losing his sight. He lost his ability to play, and eventually he had to pawn his violin and live on the street. And one of the nuns was like, oh, my sister gave me a violin. I have one from her. I'll let you borrow it. And so he started playing, and they realized he was really good. He was really good. People, in fact, the whole hospital came alive. People were lining up in the hallways and the stairwells just to listen to him play his instrument. So Meyer Berger ends his column saying that the good people at St. Clair's were going to give him a surgery and get him back on his feet, and ended it that way. 3 days later, January 26, 1959, he writes that the good people of New York, within the span of a few days, had donated 8 violins to this gentleman. Yes. He ended up, he couldn't believe it. They gave him one. It was like a gorgeous violin. And he played it, and he's like, thank you for giving me another chance. And they gave it back to him, and he just, started crying. Like, so moved that people care about each other so much in this city. And I wanted to end on this story because, people, because of the Zoran being elected, there's a lot of, fart mouth asshat people being haters, and what's New York's gonna be over, and saying escape from New York. I'm moving from I'm like, no, what New York are we becoming, and all this ridiculousness, gobbledygook, because that's ridiculous. Because no, we're getting back to New York as we are at our best, and I know that for sure, because you could take it from me and Meyer Berger. Okay, thank you. I'm Lauren Lozier.